So I have this idea. Let's fix the house up, sell it, go move to Oklahoma, raise some cows, chickens, goats, I don't know what else. But in fixing up the house, it's like we have a dining room we have to do, which is what I'm currently sitting in. Kitchen, been working on that. A den / family room, a wet bar, half bath, laundry room, garage, all of that in 2.5 weeks. Let's do that in 2.5 weeks. You've seen those shows. It never works out well. It's never 2.5 weeks. We are 4.5 months into this journey and we are still here. But today we are going to keep progressing and we're going to lay some of this stuff right here. This orange stuff, that big roll that's over my shoulder, Ditra, the underlayment for the tile. We have about 800 square feet of tile that we have to lay, and I think it's probably no better time than now to get started. Plus, we kind of have a goal. We want to get at least some of this tile done, or I should say Shelly, who's back in that room over there behind me, sipping on some coffee right now, wants to get it done in 2 weeks before we host a baby shower for my son and his wife. Don't know how realistic that one is. Again, that goes back to what I just said. I got all these projects and plans to do, and we should do it in 2 weeks. The tile, can it be done in 2 weeks? I don't know. Well, we're going to give it a shot, but we're going to go ahead and get started today with laying some Ditra. So let's get going. That was awesome. Okay, so instead of just watching us do some repetitive task for a really long time, we thought we would just jump in and actually fill in some gaps, and just maybe answer some questions. Maybe not answer questions. Maybe if you have questions, but we won't know what they are. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and maybe we'll try to answer them. But I think you see us first laying Ditra, which especially it's really good for down here in Texas. We do not have basements. Our soil is not that great down here. It's a bunch of clay, and so in the summer months it gets really dry and the soil cracks, which causes your foundation to crack, which in turn causes your tiles to crack. The theory or the idea behind Ditra underlayment is that it will absorb the shifting of the slab and prevent your tile from cracking. Hence why we take the time and the effort and the cost. Let's talk about the cost, Shelly, shall we?
Sure.
Because the Ditra is actually probably one of the most expensive things that we have done on this remodel.
On the floor, it is the most expensive aspect of the floor.
Generally speaking, it actually is up there with the cost of the doors.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
The kitchen cabinet doors.
Mm-hmm.
It far exceeds the cost of the tile.
Yeah, almost twice as much.
So what did we pay for the tile?
Because we got the pallet price, it was 85 cents a square foot.
Now, this is a little tricky of a question because
it's okay.
We had a roll that we purchased years ago. 323 square feet was our first roll that we bought years ago.
It was the best deal I could find per square foot. We paid, what did we pay per square foot for that one?
We paid $1.32 per square foot. If we bought the same thing again, it's $598.
Yeah. But Floor and Decor sells it now, and so we were able to get it for $1.68 a square foot.
So our first roll originally cost us $425. You can't get that same roll at that price. So we had to go back and buy another roll, and that was $542. So again, you're upwards of $1,000 just in underlayment.
Yeah, and we're not done yet. We need more. Right. We ran out again.
Yeah, we're just securing it with a 1/4-inch notch trowel and some, is it modified or non-modified thin set?
For an uncoupling membrane, you need to always use non-modified thin set. So no polymers. It's actually the cheap bag. It's like $5 and some change. But because air can't get to it, it needs to be the non-modified kind. And it has a very slow cure rate because the Ditra is also a vapor barrier.
How do you come up with not laying the same tile next to each other or within a few courses?
How do you be deliberately random?
How do you be deliberately random?
So when we lay vinyl plank or tile or anything that has a pattern to it, The carton always says to lay from multiple boxes at the same time. So that means that you have to open multiple boxes at the same time.
So you read the instructions?
I always read the instructions. Since you're opening multiple boxes and you gotta lay them out, like I sort the patterns. So patterns that I see that repeat, I usually give them some weird name, and that helps me identify them, and it helps us communicate about them. So if someone like hand me that tile, I hand me the tile with the V shape on it, or the shiv, or the eyelashes, or that's just what these tiles look like. One of them has a line that goes through it, so the river runs through it. Yeah, so we sort the tiles, and then we deliberately pick different patterns, trying to make sure that no two tiles with the same recognizable pattern are right together. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's great. You never want to put two shivs together, because then there's a fight.
You just think it's funny that I saw a shiv on a tile.
I have no idea why you looked at that and went, oh, it looks like a shiv. And I was like, well, that's random. Why would you say that?
But you saw it.
After you pointed it out, yes. Why did you start where you started in
the dining room?
Yeah, in this room behind us.
Oh, we have a huge opening. How big is that? 12 feet opening between the dining room and the living room?
Yeah, it's something like that.
And there's a chandelier that hangs in the middle. And we sit on the couches and stuff and look this direction, and I thought it's going to drive me nuts if the pattern in the floor is off center from the chandelier. So I made sure that the seam in the tile on every other row runs directly down the middle of the room where the chandelier is.
Why do we keep a water bottle in hand, Shelly?
Well, the non-modified thin set is a lot stronger the slower it cures, and I work slow. I don't work real fast. That's why I lay down the tile dry, cut it all to where it needs to go, then pick it all back up, then we mix mud, and then we put it all back down. Because otherwise, I'm so slow, that mud would set up. I'm sorry. But this is how we do it, and if you keep it wet, then that extends your work time on it, and it makes it cure harder and slower so that, you've got more strength in your floor.
What about the spacers we started off using?
Well, we started using the traditional spacers. We've had those for well over 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think you're supposed to lay them at the corners and like bury them underneath your grout, but we've never done it that way. We've always used them, the thickness of them, and then pulled them back up and then reused them again the next day.
Over the last 30 minutes, we've laid this much tile, got all the kitchen done, got all the dining room done, which is over in this room over here. Shelly's been working over there. You're not going to comment on that?
30 minutes, huh?
Yeah, 30 minutes is all it took. No, how many days have you been working on this?
Like a week. Yeah, a little over a week.
All right, so 30 minutes, it's not the truth. A little over a week we've been working on this tile. We started in this room that's back over here, which is our dining room, in the farthest corner. We got about 7 courses in that room done, and then we switched and moved over into this room here, which is the kitchen, and we have come this far. And the big question that we are waiting to see is actually going to happen is, will this tile from this area in here, right here, the dining room, as it comes into this room here, meet back up with this tile right here? I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen, but
It's gonna be close.
Shelly says it's going to be close. Okay, eventually we make it into this sunroom. Let's talk about this sunroom. So when we bought the house, the tile was really unlevel, and like their corners of it were sticking up and things of that nature. So what we did was we put some self-leveler on it. We probably could have done a much better job than just letting the self-leveling agent just do its thing.
Doesn't really self-level.
I mean, I guess it would if it was a continuous slope, but because it was a bunch of waves, yeah. By the time we got the ditcher over it, we needed to have something. The little spacer trick was not going to work that has worked for us in the past.
No, so we're going to be fighting that a lot.
That's why we opted to go with the little, it's not a Spin Doctor system, it was one from Floor & Decor, but it's the same premise.
Yeah, I'm so glad we put down way more spacers, because if you over tighten the little caps, you'll pop a spacer right off. If you lay down your row that you're going to end for that evening, and then come back in the morning while you're cleaning and kick one, you'll break it right off. So it's nice to have extra spacers for damage that can occur to the spacer.
And we did butter every tile. We were still using a 1/4 notch trowel, which we eventually switched to a 1/2 inch notch trowel, which helped us not butter every piece of tile that we laid down. But in this room, we buttered the back of every tile in addition to putting it over the ditch row. The whole system just seemed to like extend the time it takes to lay tile.
It takes a lot longer. You have a lot more that you're working with. You've got a lot more squish, and then they're not the type of spacers that you can just, easily scoop out your squish. But with all of that irritation and additional work, it did do a pretty good job making the tops a lot more level than I feel they would have been otherwise.
Let's talk grout lines. Like, what do you do after, you've laid the tile and you've let it sit for 24 hours?
I come back when I'm having my coffee the next morning and sit in the floor and clean grout lines with a knife. And this is the first time I've actually had grout film that didn't come up with the original washing of the grout. Like, when you put that grout down, you put it down really wet. You squish it all in the thing, wait for it to kind of film over a little bit. You wipe it out, and then
the thing is the space in between
the grout line. Yeah, you squish it down into its hole. You're really good at the squishing.
That's all I do.
You squish and I clean.
Yep.
That's how we worked it.
Okay.
So when I'm cleaning, you just constant cleaning, and then you come back and you clean some more, and it dries and you clean some more, and it dries and you clean some more.
Like, it leaves a film each time, so you got to come back and wipe it down.
Yeah, and
again.
every time you wipe the film down, then it's a lesser film, like the less thick film, I guess.
Sure.
That's how you'd say that. But this time, the final step is usually coming back with a paper towel and buffing like the last of the film off of the tile. But this one didn't buff. We had a film that I could not get off with the paper towel. So went to the interwebs and learned that you have to sometimes clean grout film with acid. Mappy, who makes the actual grout, makes this product called sulfamic acid crystals. And I read the directions and did what it said. It actually worked.
You read the directions.
I did.
Well, the question was, were we going to meet up back over here in this doorway? And the answer is yes, we made it. But not without getting a little creative at first. So what we had to do was, I wonder if our mark is still here. We buried our mark. Anyway, we made a mark on the wall where this course needed to come. I actually should point the camera where I'm looking. Right here. So we ended up actually taking all 3 rows and sliding them down to this point. And then that was able to make this course of tile line up. But if you notice, maybe your keen eye, those tiles we had to actually cut, so they're not a full length. If you'll notice, this tile over here is a full length, and that tile over there is a full length, but that one is not. So we had to cut that tile, and then this tile.
These two.
Oh, you did cut those two?
Yeah, those two are cut right there and right there. If you look close, you can see it.
Don't look close.
Don't look close. And then these two are cut here.
But I mean, from a distance, you'll never know. Pardon our baby decorations. We are in baby shower mode for our son and our daughter-in-law, who are having our first grandchild, and it's a girl.
There's some blue tape marks on some of the tiles in the sunroom and kind of going into the kitchen, and then you'll see some that actually go into the den. Those were as a result of where there was a hollow spot underneath. And I made a whole separate video on what we did to actually fix all of those hollow spots. I actually didn't think this thing was going to work, but it worked really well. It took some time getting used to. Basically, it's a caulk-like substance that's incredibly runny, like Elmer's glue, and you just drill a hole in your grout line and just squish it in there until it doesn't squish in anymore. And you let that sit for 24 hours, and it tends to take away the hollowness sounding of a tile. But it worked really well. Go watch the other video of it. It's quite comical. It can be a bit laborious as you watch me trying to figure out, having never used the product before, on just how it functions, and because you can't see the stuff go underneath the tile. You just have to kind of guess, and anyway, just go watch that video. It's a whole lot more helpful than me trying to explain it. We did actually finish laying all the tile in the den. We actually finished laying the tile from the dining room, the sunroom, and the kitchen before the baby shower. The baby shower was several weeks ago because we were just that late in getting a video out. We have since done all of the entire den, grouted it. But then this week is a really big week for us because tomorrow we hear about your dad.
Yeah, so Dad has an appointment with the neurologist, and he'll get his official diagnosis from a whole series of tests they ran in May and June.
Yeah, so you can pray for that. Pray that it actually would be better results than what we are anticipating. The other thing that we're very excited about as we got ready and we did have some flooring down before the baby shower is that at the end of this week,
the baby will be born. Or, yeah, I mean, they're going to induce, so something's going to happen.
Something is going to happen. So by the end of the week, we will be grandparents to our first grandchild, a baby girl named Adriana. And when she is here, we'll, I don't know, send pictures or post them.
If it's okay with her parents.
We're the grandparents. Overruled.
No, that's not how that works.
I'm overruling them. I'm going to post pictures. I don't care.